Auditor General Nancy Gathungu appeared in the National Assembly Parliamentary Committee and is telling the President that it is time to set aside some funds in the next financial year for the audit of the e-Citizen. E-Citizen is government's one-stop platform that is used to collect money on behalf of government by Kenyans who are actually seeking different services. The providers are saying that e-Citizen platform is a platform that is housing more than 15,000 services that the government is offering. My name is Kevin Oduor. This is the Bold Analysis. Today, we are getting deep into this. We'll ask the most important questions and get the right answers. And that is why I'm joined by Frank.
In 2013, when President Uhuru Kenyatta came to power, he commissioned a task force to set up a digital payment service platform for all government platforms. And this gave birth to the idea of this e-Citizen platform that was developed by Webmaster Kenya in 2014 by one James Ayogi.
So the platform is owned by the government?
Yes, the platform called e-Citizen is 100% owned by the government.
The software that you developed is owned by the government?
The software that we developed is licensed to the government.
Okay. So you own it?
We own our intellectual property.
Okay.
But the government has its license to scale and improve its version of the system.
Is
so
it
you
in
give
perpetuity?
them the right to use it?
The right to customize the version of the software to their liking and to the local laws.
Okay.
And for that, we cannot be able to move the Kenyan version to any other market.
Can you rescind it at any point? The license?
The Kenyan license is owned license by the government.
Oh, it's an owned license.
Yes, it's
not
an
lease.
owned license.
Okay.
So in the future, other people can still be able to improve on it. But it is compiled at this particular time, and they are the ones who are running it.
When you developed it, were you paid?
We were paid for the initial pilot, and this was 76K US dollars. At that time, it was like 7.6 million for the initial 10 services.
And then?
But you realize our intention at that time was to prove concept. So we didn't know that 10 services is such a small number when it came to even just NTSA. So in the initial terms of reference, it was just 3 services from NTSA. The moment you get in, you realize one service called driver's license has more than 15 other add-ons that all work together. So we now started just incorporating this additional just to prove the concept.
For more money.
So the pilot was partially funded, because I could say most of it we funded it ourselves.
Okay.
Yes.
Since then, how do you get paid?
Currently, we have a contract with the government, and the government pays us as per the contract agreement.
From the initial moment when we started interacting with the e-Citizen for NTSA services, to date, whenever you transact on e-Citizen, there's something called was it facilitation? What's the word?
Convenience fee.
The convenience fee.
Yes.
That has never gone below 50 bob.
Until recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
How much is it now?
From 5 shillings.
Okay.
So it is now
much lower.
No, not much lower. It has a tariff.
It's pegged to the service.
Right? Yes. So if you're paying a service, let's say less than 150, you pay like 5 shillings.
Okay.
Yes.
Who does this money go to?
So that money goes to the National Treasury.
And then?
And then the National Treasury disburses it to the ICT Authority.
Why?
The ICT Authority is the technical arm of the government responsible for all the digitization efforts. So they have contract with other providers, and this is one of the options to fund the digitization effort over and above other donors who come in to assist.
Was this part of your proposal to the government, or was it part of the terms of reference and requirements by government?
This was part of the now recommendation after the pilot.
My name is Frank Oduor. This is the Bold Analysis.
Frank, me and you know very well that this is a very important platform for government in collecting money. But the most important question that we've really been asking is about its safety. How safe is it? And on safety, I choose to argue that if this platform is owned by individual, because when Nancy Gathungu appeared in Parliament, she asked Treasury, who owns this? The Treasury says an individual. The Auditor General, who is a very key person on government expenditure, doesn't know really what happens in this platform. In fact, according to her, she wants the country to be told how much has been collected through this platform. And my question about the safety has been about the pilferage of funds. That if it is just in the hands of an individual, how many transactions can be there in terms of transaction written typo, but the money can still be routed to someone else? And so I wonder, is it really safe by the Kenyan money being just put in the hands of an individual?
This is something that still baffles many and baffles a majority of the Kenyan citizen. This is a platform that collects over 1 billion Kenya shillings daily on a daily basis. The money being collected on behalf of the government by Pesa Flow Solutions and remitted to the KCB consolidated bank accounts, which nobody, even the Auditor General, from the information that she tried to inquire from the Treasury, isn't clear. Now, the safety of this is a question of concern since it handles most of Kenyans' data. You could just imagine that schools rely on this, colleges rely on this, and even the citizens rely on this. What about one day we wake up to the information of the system being hacked?
I think this is a very important platform, and I think we need to emphasize that it's one of the best things that happened in terms of collecting money. And it's true, there's so many other avenues, there's so many other questions that are involved in this. I just want us to listen to Nancy Gathungu. There is some time she was talking tough to the president about the issue of accountability. And that is why I believe that she really needs to get involved. Let's get that soundbite.
If we concentrated first on the reports of the controller of budget, on how budget is implemented, then down the river or down the road, we would not be having all these headlines that seem to indicate that this country is not developing or that this country is not getting out of wastage, corruption, and other misallocations of resources. I wouldn't say much, Your Excellency, now, but the issues we need to look at is pending bills, and I did emphasize on this in Nanyuki, that when we are talking of building the bottom up in terms of businesses, then we are also sabotaging the very same businesses by not paying for the supplies they've given government or the work that they've done for the government. The issue of lack of accountability for the resources is very critical, that every one of the people you have delegated to assist you in delivering on the mandate and on the needs of the Kenyan people must be accountable for what they are given. And if they're accountable, Your Excellency, then you're able and your team is able to build trust in your government. When we issue the reports that we do as constitutional commissions and independent offices, and it's all, if I may say, doom and gloom, then you lose, as a government, trust of the people. which is very, very important because there's nowhere else that the counties or the country or the Kenyans will go to except to this country. We are here to support you. I want to reiterate again, we are your advisors. Even as your CSs and PSs employ other advisors, they must know that we are the front line and we can guide them, we can discuss with them, we can consult with them to improve on accountability. We must follow the Constitution and we must follow the law. The Constitution speaks to 12 months in a year, which is a financial year. But Your Excellency, we have created a 13th month, and in that 13th month, there's a lot of wastage of resources. As your accounting officers whom you've appointed struggle to absorb funds in May, June, and unfortunately in July, funds that they should not be receiving in July. And that creates the loopholes, Your Excellency, for wastage, reallocation, misallocation, illegalities, and irregularities. The CS National Treasury needs to address this, and Your Excellency, this can be done as a directive or as an amendment to the Public Finance Management Act, including instituting accrual accounting so that your PSs don't struggle as other PSs have struggled before to absorb funds at the last quarter of the financial year.
Now, Frank, I don't know whether you also see it clearly because kuna kitu sijaelewa that we don't have a law that controls it. We don't have any legislation around it because I just want to use two examples. If you look at Hustler Fund, there's supposed even to be a committee. You know the software, the Hustler Fund and this one are two digital assets of the government. So e-Citizen is a digital asset that government is using. If you look at affordable housing, there is a committee that is being set aside and there is a board that is supposed to be created to oversee that fund. Now, this one is an e-Citizen, a platform that government is using. Don't you think it's a bit important for this to be anchored in law? And so the big question is, how is it that's not in law?
That I think that is the main one of the main worries of one Nancy Gathungu, who is the Auditor General, because the platform since its conception, there is no bill that has been presented on Parliament to actually support the existence of this very platform. And that is why I think the government has been running in and out court battles with the so-called owners of this platform. And that, if this is not based on any law and the amount of data that it even handles on citizen, then I think this is a case of worry on even the safety of our data as citizens of this country.
So you're saying there've been a court case around it?
There've been court cases around this e-Citizen platform. Some of the most memorable cases, you know when this platform was developed by the owner, they shared this information to the World Bank. The World Bank gave the owner about 70 million Kenya shillings to give the idea to the government. But this was not actually the purchase of this platform. It was just something, an incentive given to the owner. Now, there was a point that the owner wanted to be compensated by the government, but then he wasn't ready to give the platform fully to the government. The government approached the guy and was willing to give 1.5 billion Kenya shillings to this guy so that the platform could be owned by the government. But this didn't augur well with the owner. Now, there was a time that one Okia Omtata, who is the current senator of Busia County, went to court challenging on the legality of this very platform and on the safety of this very platform. It was on a different case. That is when the sitting judge on this case, Honorable Justice Joel Mativo, directed Okia Omtata to actually present the case before a constitutional court. When this case was presented before a constitutional court, the files in this case were actually tampered with in the files section, and this case has been dragging. Another time that this actually went to court was one when the current minority leader of the Senate, Honorable Stewart Madzai, who is also a former judicial officer, went to Malindi High Court to challenge on the payment of 50 shillings convenience fee that is being charged on Kenyans when they use this platform. His argument was that this convenience fee, even if you want a government service of 50 bob, you'll still be charged 50 bob to be using this very platform. And this 50 shillings wasn't also on any Kenyan Gazette notice.
So, let me get it. If I need good conduct, good conduct is 1,000, and I pay it through eCitizen. So out of this 1,000, 50 shillings goes to convenience.
It's a convenience fee.
Now, who collects the convenience fee?
That is the big question. That is the big question.
And that's why I say what Mazayo was saying, that we needed to anchor it on law. I want you to imagine how many transactions are in this country. You can see why there is a good rush for creating many Huduma centers. Recently, I realized there was one that was even opened in Laikipia. And they're trying best, which is in good notice, so that the people can access the services. But the question of convenience fee, 50 shillings per transaction.
Per transaction.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And nobody is willing to share information on where the money goes, who gets a share of the money, and how the government actually benefits from this money. Because 50 shillings seems to be a lot. Even if it's convenient,
then the question is, where is that in law?
Yes, that is the biggest question.
But IT guys will say that is in IT.
They will say it's in IT, but you know the biggest problem here, even these court battles, it has been because the government has been wanting to acquire this eCitizen platform so that it can be fully a government platform. But then the problem is the owner is tempted to say that this is actually an intellectual property.
Okay.
So it is actually protected by the intellectual property law.
Now that begs this. I'm looking at the system seemed to be designed to be that way because they want to manipulate it. Remember, now we're just talking about 50 shillings convenience fee that goes into this when someone does a transaction there. Then this is why it can't be in law, because someone has to collect the 50 shillings.
Maybe. Who knows?
And then the other most strategic question here is the fate of this audit. When I saw that video of Nancy Gathungu in Parliament and the body language of parliamentarians when she was talking about the audit, one thing that crossed my mind is, if in the next financial year her first objective will be to audit this platform, then what the government will likely do is even to cut short the budget that go to his office, because who wants to audit
the government?
A fraud? Who can even audit a fraud?
Or something that the system is benefiting from.
Who wants to fraud? How will fraud? I'm looking at the fate of this audit and I'm just seeing bureaucracy will collapse it. Why am I saying? I just want to pick an example of Supreme Court, the presidential case of 2022, both 2017. And I think I analyzed this saying, Maraga issued orders for the servers to be opened. Remember, Maraga is sitting in the judiciary. He's sitting in the Supreme Court. Then some juniors are sent to go to give the opposition by then. I think that was not Azimio, that was NASA.
It was NASA.
NASA, to give them access. Then the IT experts engage in a lot of back and forth. That still happened in 2022. And then at the end of the day, that audit collapsed.
It did collapse.
So even on this one, I believe Nancy Gathungu is not going to be the one to audit. So she's going to send some IT guys. And if there is a place that government has always got in its way, is these IT guys, they will go there and then collude and come up with a very
theory
that not even Nancy Gathungu will be able to understand.
Can understand.
I'm not seeing a very good audit here.
Hey, and then there is the aspect of transparency of the audit. As you've stated, on bureaucracy, we can still page transparency on it. Just using your own words and your own words that you've used to describe it. When we involve too much of these IT guys, and now Kenyans will be less interested because we see IT as a rocket science, actually. So now the transparency of all this process, nobody would be willing to do a surgical operation on the transparency of this. And still paging on transparency, there is something called the government image. The government would be working so hard to protect its image. So that is likely to interfere with the transparency of the outcome of this very audit.
Because someone cannot give a report that is going to dent
the image of the government.
Should the audit be stopped then?
I don't think if that should be stopped there. Kenyans deserve to know the truth. Kenyans deserve to know the safety of their data and how the money that they give to government is used. Remember, this e-citizen platform is a non-tax revenue connection platform.
Yes.
And now somebody is likely to argue also that if this is collecting revenue and KRA is the legally mandated body to collect revenues on behalf of the government, then where are they getting the legal mandate to actually collect monies on behalf of the government?
And everyone has been asking, it is a non-tax revenue collection platform. But how about that 50 shillings? Isn't it a tax on what I'm paying?
It's a tax, actually. It's a tax.
Now, today if I say that out of 1,000, if you pay 1,000 for good conduct, we will tax that money.
We'll tax that money.
We'll tax that money. So we want to take some 10 shillings from it. We will develop something else. See, it will just be from this.
It will develop, and maybe, because I'm trying to think in a different angle, because of the government's appetite for more taxes and more revenue, it might actually be also an eye-opener to the government, that actually there is no way I'm seeking for a government service of 250 shillings and you're seeking for a government service of 1,500 shillings, and then we both pay 50 bob. You'd hear somebody come with a proposal that actually you need now to increase the convenience fee. And yet, we don't have the clear information on how this convenience fee is used.
And the most other outraging point in this is President William Ruto came out in public and said, we are going to use a new pay bill. You understand? So the pay bill we are going to use is 222,222. This pay bill is to be used when you're paying for government services. Now, initially, we used to pay, even through the e-citizen, there was a pay bill that was to be used. But you realize that if you're paying for ID, it's something else. If you're paying for this, it's something else. Now, the point here is, if you're paying for anything, even in e-citizen, or you're just going to an office, you can still report to office, and you can still go to registry office and apply for ID. It's not a must that you must walk to. For example, look at passports. Passports are not paid for in e-citizen. Passport iko. So this point of margin by using one pay bill, is it an assurance that the money is going in one account?
That's a question or an idea that is open to discussion and debates, and maybe bringing in of new ideas. Because one, it might be an efficient way, because now the government can coordinate and can oversee how actually all the monies that are remitted to the government are actually moving on these accounts. But now there comes the issue of inconvenience. What about one day when we wake up to a situation where all payments to this number, maybe the system is overwhelmed or the system is underwhelmed. Now that is where our question is, that in that situation, what do we do? Or in that case, what do we do, or whom do we approach? Do we stop giving government services to the citizens of this country?
Then that stands as audit is the most critical point that is needed here. And I think the audit needs individual discipline. We need to know, really, I don't buy the foreign, because forensic exclusively doesn't mean foreign.
Sure.
Forensic is just another word for scientific.
Scientific.
So we just need to be very disciplined and be able to tell the country the truth. Because even after this regime, there is the next regime. But I think that guy should give us that e-citizen.
Give it to us, the citizens, or give to the government?
Give to the government, because it becomes patriotic.
But Kevin, do you think forensic audit will solve the problem of the e-citizen platform? Because how many forensic investigations have we done in this country that have maybe ended up being bungled, actually?
It might not be an exclusive answer. It might not really give us the real picture, because forensic doesn't mean foreign.
It doesn't mean foreign.
Yes, you know what we say. Forensic just means for scientific. So what I see is, when we audit, we must just have the discipline of even the person auditing wants to know the truth. not auditing, then sitting back in the office, then starting manipulating all those reports and giving us another wrong report, so that you give us what we want to hear. You know, sometimes the government says what the public want to hear.
Actually.
Yeah. So instead of telling us what we want to hear, you should tell us the truth. Why? We have loans we are struggling to pay, and we have people that are giving us money. And what will be important is if they get the true picture of accountability. Accountability is a double-edged sword in everything. Because when you account for whatever you've been collecting, then it will be easy even for me to trust you with whatever I'm going to loan you.
Sure. Very true.
Thank you, guys. My name is Kevin.
And I'm Frank.